Hello to you, this is World Business Report. I'm Ben Thompson and we start this hour in Ukraine because global markets have rallied on hopes that military tensions could ease after Russia said it was recalling some of its troops from Ukraine's border. But US President Joe Biden is warning a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. Well, European and US markets, well, they bounced back on Tuesday and that continued in Asian trade, somewhat easing back, as you can see, in trade today. But Russia said more of its troops were leaving the region. The West, though, says it is waiting for proof, and until that comes through, markets are not going anywhere. Elsewhere, a number of key Ukrainian banks were hit by a massive cyber attack on Tuesday, with fears that Russia was to blame. Well, let's get more with Philip Worman, who is Managing Director at the political risk consultancy GPW. Philip, welcome to World Business Report.
Morning.
So how much can we read into the fact that Russia says some troops are being pulled back, but the US says, hang on, we need some proof?
It's a very messy narrative, and I think what we're seeing at the moment is essentially a war of narratives. So Russia is trying to show its own domestic audience, its population, that it's willing to de-escalate, it's striving for peace, but at the same time the US, the Western allies, simply don't believe Russia. And I have to say, although the market has bounced back, we are seeing crude oil prices ticking up again. So there are still jitters in the market, particularly around that key commodity of oil.
Yeah, and those jitters are what we will keep an eye on, of course, because there is so much nervousness and people are reading a lot into little phrases we may get out from world leaders, little movements we may see elsewhere, and that's the problem. We just don't know which way this could go.
Absolutely. It's very finely balanced. You know, even a one-on-one discussion between Foreign Minister Lavrov and Putin is being analysed to death just on one sentence, let's keep trying. And we're already seeing, the Russian stock market is 9% down from the beginning of the year. The ruble has really tanked against the dollar. So the markets are extremely spooked by what's going to happen next.
And markets will find all sorts to concern themselves with, of course. But it's coming at a particularly bad time when, you may have heard our other headline there, inflation, a huge problem around the world. So there's a lot for the markets to contend with, not least this geopolitical uncertainty.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned food price inflation. Ukraine and Russia are some of the biggest wheat and corn exporters. So there are unintended consequences. The Middle East and China are huge customers with Russia and Ukraine. And if there is any kind of invasion, and we'll see sanctions, food prices globally will spike again, in addition to the existing inflation that's present globally.
Yes, and it's very easy for us to talk about inflation just about energy prices, but it's also worth a mention because sanctions could be one of the big things that affect the price we pay for energy. A lot of that sourced from Russia passing through Ukraine. And some would argue that Russia is already weaponising their energy exports because they're not stepping in to help with the energy crisis already underway in Europe.
Well, yeah, I mean, Russia denies the fact that it's using gas as an energy weapon. But, if there are sanctions, we will see gas prices going up, maybe even 30%. If there is any kind of military incursion, you could see oil price spike at, say, $120 a barrel. We've seen that before. I think it will calm down. I mean, after Crimea, the market did stabilize, but we're in a very dangerous phase at the moment. I think commodity prices are just going to increase. And you've also got to look at, the rarer stuff. So palladium, Russia has a bottleneck on the supply of this rare metal palladium, which is essential for catalytic converters. So there's a whole range of commodities that could spike in any kind of military action by Russia.
Yeah, Philip, we're really grateful for your insight. Thanks for being with us. Philip Worman there at GPW for the latest on what could happen. As we said, markets nervous about how this could play out, but we'll keep you right up to date here on BBC World News. Now, elsewhere, the cost of